Over 900 coronavirus deaths recorded in Cameroon, with 68 in only 1 week. The Interministerial Committee to monitor the response strategy scrutinizes the availability of kits and considers the construction of new specialized treatment centers. The National Anti-Corruption Commission and lawmakers at the National Assembly liaise to stamp out the vice and consent to the passing of a law on corruption and the application of Section 66 of the Constitution. Construction works at the Olembe Sports Complex, expected to host the opening game of the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations, has resumed, and the contractors challenged to hasten up before the arrival of the inspection team of the Confederation of African Football. Those were the headlines of the 7:30 news. Thanks for joining us.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
The rising number of coronavirus infections in the country is preoccupying the states and the Interministerial Committee to monitor the COVID-19 response strategies, designing a new game plan. In the session chaired by Prime Minister Joseph John Gutteh, emphasis was laid on the construction of more specialized treatment centers across the country. The application of barrier measures in public and in open markets will also be sharpened. Christian Chiatam reports from the Star Building.
The interministerial meeting revealed statistics which show that the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic is preoccupying in Cameroon. 68 deaths over the past week, 3,886 active cases present in the country, and 385 persons currently in treatment centers.
We have to brainstorm to know what we can do to reduce this level of the death. Globally, we continue our response plan.
The availability of COVID-19 test kits and the construction of new follow-up and treatment centers across the country also featured on the menu.
We have received the last 2 weeks 413,000 tests. I don't think we have any problem with regarding the tests.
Prime Minister Joseph John Gutteh and members of the follow-up committee also looked at the application of barrier measures in open markets across Cameroon.
By what I can see and the reports I receive, measures are globally well implemented. What we are doing now is just to make sure that they are continuously reiterated to population.
Prime Minister, Head of Government Joseph John Gutteh has recommended the continuation of mass testing in the country, as well as the continuous application of barrier measures in open markets all over Cameroon.
Contrary to the belief that former patients of COVID-19 have developed an immunity against the virus, research indicates that former sufferers can get reinfected. Immune response from past infection only reduce the risk of catching the virus to a small extent over a short period of time. Beatrice Losamba talked to health experts on the possibility of coronavirus repeated infections.
Research about the novel coronavirus has suggested from the onset that recovering from COVID-19 equaled getting immunity from the virus.
If you do get another infection, having had coronavirus the first time, that you should have some sort of protection from it because you would have some antibodies. And hopefully this means that if you get it again, it's not going to be as severe, or you might not even get it again.
But as time went on, new variants of the virus showed up and research too moved, putting a question mark on this finding.
What we don't really know is how long this protection is going to last for. So some studies have said 6 to 8 months, but it could be shorter. It could also be because of the new variants that are coming across, that we're coming across now. So you might have had the South African variant the first time, and then you get the UK variant the next time.
So recovering from a variant of coronavirus may give short-term immunity from that virus, but does not guarantee a person is protected from other variants. Need therefore for everyone without exception to observe barrier measures, recovered from COVID-19 or not.
In one of our top stories, the sum of over 150 billion CFA francs lost to corrupt practices in Cameroon within the last decade has been recovered by the National Anti-Corruption Commission. The figure was revealed at a special plenary sitting today at the National Assembly, presided over by the Senior Deputy Speaker, Honorable Hilarion Etong. With the Commission, the lawmakers agreed on a corruption law in the country and the respect of Section 66 of the Constitution to end the cankerworm. Charles Ebune has details on these and other events at the National Assembly.
The lawmakers thronged the Yaoundé Conference Center for the first parliamentary exchange with officials of the country's corruption watchdog.
The fine thing about this move by CONAC today is that CONAC has presented to the people's representatives the challenges which they have.
Corruption, the worst enemy to the development of the country, the agency denounced 23,048 acts of corruption 3 years ago.
It will be good for commissioners of CONAC to have the status of special judicial police officers. This will give them mandate to carry out investigations.
The lawmakers questioned the workload of the commission.
The mentality is now changing.
The chairman of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, Reverend Dieudonné Massigams, outlined their success storyline and challenges.
The task is not only for CONAC now.
Amongst the recommendations made is the effective implementation of constitutional provisions on asset declaration.
The big thing that we must do is the dedication of integrity.
The plenary on corruption, chaired by Senior Deputy House Speaker Hilarion Etong, was followed by an exchange to better skills of members of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the National Assembly.
The administration of the Assembly thought it wise that the members of this committee need to have some kind of capacity building to better understand the intricacies of international cooperation.
All the bills tabled already during this session at the National Assembly have had to do with the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Despite decades of awareness raised on the ills of corruption on the society and the sanctions meted on embezzlers and defaulters, the practice is yet to be subdued. This brings to question the strategies used to combat the wrong and the approach adopted by the state and the anti-corruption bodies in Cameroon. Kelly and Andy Fons sought the opinion of some political leaders on what they endorse to reverse the current trend.
Some political leaders hold that the first effective means to fight corruption is prevention.
Prevention concerns the application of Article 66 of our Constitution, which says that you must publish your access before and then at the end of any function.
To others, morality must determine appointments to a public office.
They should put the right person in the right place. Right means not only in terms of education, but in terms of morality.
Duration of managers in a public office should be controlled and salaries reviewed, critics suggest.
In some countries, there are some key positions that you cannot stay there more than 4 years. If you compare the salary of people in this country with the other country in Africa, take for example the salary of the university lecturers, very low.
A political approach and empowering anti-corruption bodies could play the trick.
If you have CONAC, and CONAC go to the field, give his report to the head of state, and the head of state is the only one who will judge the opportunity to go to justice or not to go.
To obtain different results, there is need for a review of the current anti-corruption strategies, that is, sensitization and selective prison sentences.
Away from the fight against corruption, stakeholders of the April 4 Regional Council election rerun in Mainwa Division have been applauded for the strong sense of professionalism and fairness demonstrated on the pool of traditional rulers. This was during the first plenary session of the Electoral Board of Elections Cameroon, presided over by Dr. Eno Abrams Egbe. The members also looked into issues related to the management and activities of the first quarter of Elecam this year. Prince Will Mukwele Aduma has the details.
There is no small election, declared Dr. Eno Abrams Egbe as he opened the session. This, the board chair of Elecam, made in reference to the April 4th election of traditional rulers of the Mainwa in completion of the Regional Council of the West. After terming the exercise hitch-free, he praised the Elecam supervisory team to the field, led by Vice President Mrs. Amugua Pauline, and the detailed handling of the process by the Director General, Dr. Eric Isose. Board members were then entreated to the crux of deliberations that harped on the examination of administrative accounts and statement of expenditure of the special appropriation to the board. The first quarterly activities of the year were looked into.
20,849 newly registered electors since 7 January 2021. This is obviously an encouraging wake-up call for political parties to continue sensitizing citizens for a massive enrollment on electoral register, for it is the only guarantee for democracy and expression of votes.
Eno Abrams Egbe has blamed the slow but effective exercise on the impact of COVID-19, whose barrier measures were observed strictly in this first ordinary session.
The security situation in the Southwest region is being assessed by the Chief of Staff of the Defense Forces, General René-Claude Meka. At a working visit to the region, the considerable return of peace was hailed, and the forces were commended for their contribution to the smooth holding of the regional election and hosting of the African Nations Championship, the CHAN. Henry Mekole has the details.
The visit to the Southwest region by the Chief of Staff of the Defense Forces, General René-Claude Meka, was a routine control visit to evaluate the security situation in the Southwest region, especially within the context of the crisis. After listening to security briefings from top security officials of the Southwest region, General Meka said the security situation in the region has improved tremendously. As measuring rods, the Chief of Staff of the Defense Forces pointed to the organization of the regional elections in the region, as well as the just-ended African Nations Championship CHAN, without any major trouble. Drameka attributed the security gains to the Defense Forces, whom he said are doing an incredible job. He further told them to continue to work hard in order to bring lasting peace and security to the Southwest region. Meantime, before the general even started his session with the security personnel, he first of all paid a courtesy visit to the governor of the Southwest region, Bernard Okale-Bilai.
A project to resolve the drop in electricity voltage in the Northwest and Southwest regions is advancing satisfactorily. The Minister of Water and Energy, Gaston Enundu-Esomba, made the positive appraisal at an audit of the construction work and prescribed the respect of the stipulated deadline. Clarice Aritakan reports.
Bakem in Kongsamba subdivision. It is the site of a project managed by the Ministry of Water and Energy to effectively address the problem of drops in electricity voltage in the Northwest and West regions. The construction of a 225 kilovolt single circuit transmission line is ongoing to take the voltage from 90 to more than 220 kilovolts. It will go from Kongsamba to Bafoussam and Yaoundé to Abongba.
Now you have in lack of a quantity of electricity you brought on this region because of the line. Now you are building this line with these tensions. You are sure you are improving the quality of electricity in these two regions.
Economic activities in a number of localities have been hit hard by the irregular supply of electricity. Progress on the project is thus raising hopes.
We have completed most of the civil works, and we have completed 60% of the assembly and erection works. So we are well on course to finish before time this particular project line. Overall progress is 84%.
The works have a December 2021 deadline.
Many neighborhoods in the economic capital Douala have seen their taps running dry for several months, slowing down domestic and economic activities. The incessant water cuts has been attributed to the technical fault in the equipment of the water utility company, Camwater. Veronica Benyala reports on the ordeal of the Douala city dwellers who seem not to see the end of the tunnel.
It's been several months since running water is constantly unavailable in several neighborhoods of Douala.
There are times that they can give you water in the morning, in the evening there's no water. After 2 days they will give you water, 3 days they will seek all the water.
This situation has forced many to seek for alternative measures which are not usually healthy. We happen to live in a neighborhood which is swampy, so we turn to wells and boreholes to get water for daily chores. Yet, clients of Camwater feel oppressed with exorbitant bills and no service.
When they got the water, we still have difficulties by the bill, because the bill will still come even more than what we were first of all consuming when we never even had problem with water.
Some city dwellers are calling on government's intervention.
We are overwhelmed. The state has to intervene and call Camwater to order.
In reaction to the Directorate General of Camwater has issued a press release justifying the situation to a technical incident at their main water station at Japoma.
In other news, the coronavirus pandemic has heightened the vulnerability of workers, especially those of the informal sector, with little or no insurance. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security and the International Labour Organization are working on means to extend social security to the informal economy as well as financing options. Cynthia Saptala reports on the virtual dialogue where Minister Gregoire Owona presented the challenges in the sector in Cameroon.
Cameroon workers in the informal sector represent 90% of the active population. However, a majority do not benefit from social security despite government's efforts through the creation of the voluntary insurance scheme managed by the National Social Insurance Fund. As of date, only 250,000 have benefited from this social protection scheme, but according to the Minister of Labour, the challenge yet to overcome is changing the mindset of these workers on the importance of being insured. Based on reports presented at the ILO Virtual Regional Conference, workers within the informal sector are most highly vulnerable to poverty, with limited means to cope with the economic, social and health impacts of the ongoing pandemic. To achieve social protection and decent work in all activities, especially for these laborers in the informal sector, the goal is to come up with innovative approaches whereby more sustainable contributions can be made.
On to international relations, the Canadian High Commissioner to Cameroon, His Excellency Richard Bale, has pledged to assist the National School of Local Administration in Buea in the accomplishment of its missions. The Canadian diplomat made the revelation to accompany the institution in its drive to train human resources on decentralization and local development during a working visit. Olivia Mbai has details from Buea.
The National School of Local Administration, NASLA, in Canada are expected to revolve around two major strategic axes, notably training and applied research in the management of local authorities. But most importantly, Canada is a model for successful decentralization. Thus, NASLA, as a young institution, can tap from the Canadian experience.
We could have exchange programs for our students. We could have exchange of experts. We could have assistance in developing specific programs.
We have a deep experience in decentralization, in empowering subnational levels of government to deliver services to citizens, to develop policies in their areas of competence.
The visit of His Excellency Richard Bale to NASLA is expected to mark the beginning of fruitful relations between Canada and NASLA, created in 2020.
Still on decentralization and local development, the Workshop Africa 2021 initiative, which aims at fostering the sustainable management of cities, has ended in Yaoundé with stakeholders resolving to engage in peace development programs. The two-day exchange highlighted the contributions of decentralized territorial communities in partnership with Spain. Victor Siga has the details.
The whole idea of the initiative, Workshop Africa 2021, was that of putting in place a framework for economic and cultural cooperation between African decentralized territorial communities and Spain. The two-day workshop with partners gave the opportunity to share innovative strategic solutions and experiences between Spanish and African municipalities on sustainable development.
We have interactive sections on different sector of activities. They presented their project. We are planning a session of work with each municipality to develop the country and to bring job opportunity to youth.
Partners are expected to come up with a number of developmental projects that will be examined, validated and followed up by the Spanish counterpart. The second edition, which took place under the theme Accelerating Sustainable Development in Order to Guarantee Social Peace, equally set the pace for the third edition, which takes place in Spain next year.
Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society.
The coronavirus can be contracted by children of all ages, and medics advise that parents must ensure their offspring respect barrier measures. The number of children who have succumbed to COVID-19 related complications is a testimony to the gravity of the disease, which knows no age discrimination. Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam, are the Public Health Emergency Operations Center with the details. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening, Esther Kima. Some would consider them as those least concerned with the coronavirus, but on the contrary, more and more of them have been tested positive for COVID-19 recently. We are talking about children. And what particular age group is directly concerned with the coronavirus? Let's find out from our virologist, Dr. Joseph Fokam, who is our guest tonight. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
What particular age group, when we talk about children, is directly concerned with the coronavirus?
Effectively, Baldwin, we can classify children in two major groups. The less than 10 years and the 10 to 19 years, who are adolescents, 10 to 19 years. 10 to 19 years, they are highly concerned with COVID-19. But now when we go down to the less than 10 years, in Cameroon, actually, we have like 3.6% prevalence in terms of positivity with COVID-19. And then we have less than 1% of morbidity in terms of those who get sick within the age range less than 10, which means that less than 10 goes with a lower risk of positivity and a lower risk also of making the disease. But that notwithstanding, these are public health statistics. Now, when we go down to the individual cases, believe me, we have been seeing children dying because of COVID-19. We had a case of a 15-year-old child with a high viral load who died after being positive and after having symptoms of COVID-19. We also have the case of a 3-year-old child who also had pulmonary affection following COVID-19 positivity. So in terms of individual case management, please, be it a child or an adult, if you have a positive result, please get treated such that we should maintain our lower rate of mortality due to this anticipated treatment that we have in Cameroon, also free of charge in our context.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Joseph Fokam, for all those explanations. As we parents continue respecting the barrier measures, we should not hesitate to encourage our children to equally join this bandwagon to respect the different barrier measures so as to avoid any possibility where any of us can get infected with the coronavirus. Back to you, Esther Kima.
Thanks very much, Baldwin Sama. With the figures presented, it is evident that COVID-19 knows no age. On to corporate accords. A partnership agreement has been signed between the Accra Annual Festival and the Cameroon Radio Television CRTV. The convention was signed today by CRTV's Director General Shandongo and officials of the Central African largest cinema events. Laurel Bate Eya Anchang has the details of the accord.
Both parties penned down this agreement, making the start of cooperation between the Cameroon Radio Television and Accra Noir Film Festival, Central Africa's largest cinema event. The Director General of the CRTV welcomed this initiative that puts CRTV channel at the service of the African cinema, according to filmmaker Basek Bakobio. They are ready to use CRTV as their main media to project their films to the nation and the world at large.
We are very happy with this convention because you know that the CRTV is for us very we will use all the platforms of the CRTV. We will show Cameroonian African films.
The Accra Noir Film Festival hosts every year in Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, and it plays host to a wide variety of film production from Africa directors and producers, mostly in the Central African sub-region and the African diaspora.
On to another agreement. Pendant students of the University of Ngaoundéré will be benefiting from international training in athletics and other sports experiences. The National Olympic Committee is opening its doors to the over 20,000 student body in a convention signed with the institution. Rekiato Musa Jinge has the details.
Olympic values are set to be applied across higher education as part of the agreement. Students of the University of Ngaoundéré will not only benefit from international training opportunities, but equally employment.
The aim of this convention is the promotion of sport. The National Committee will implement here in the University of Ngaoundéré a center of studies in Olympics.
More than 20,000 students are enrolled at the University of Ngaoundéré, which is said to be popular also with students from neighboring Chad and the Central African Republic.
It will be very beneficial to the students in many reasons, the employability of our students, because the committee has so many structures which can absorb our students in order to help them to be useful in different activity of sports.
Cameroon has sent athletes to every Summer Olympics since Tokyo 1964, plus the Salt Lake City 2002 Winter Games.
In one of our top stories, employees at the Olembe Sports Complex have to step up their game and complete the work before November this year. The Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Professor Narcisse Molekombi, was at the site to assess the resumption of the work that had been suspended for a couple of months. Romeo Kenny tells us more.
The roofing of the main stadium is over. The embellishment of the outer shelf is ongoing. It will take some 35 weeks to get it done. 29 circumference cables to beef up lighting within the arena and public address systems are installed.
We discussed with technical teams from the Ministry of Sport about delayed due essentially on technical aspect and process for the finance.
Works at the football facility were halted due to lack of finance, but the head of state lately disbursed 55 billion CFA francs for job to continue. On a routine visit to the sports complex, Sports Minister Professor Narcisse Molekombi comes remobilizing employees.
The availability of this fund is on a good track, recommending to McGill to fully remobilize the staff.
In May, a CAF delegation will be on inspection visit to the stadium ahead of AFCON 2021, slated for January 2022. Dressing rooms, toilet, skyboxes, and conference rooms are all in fine shape. Contractors intend finishing with the playground by November 2021.
Still in sports, it is 2 months to the start of qualifiers of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, and many Cameroonians are preoccupied about the indomitable Lion squad. Some players like Nicolas Nkulu have turned down the offer to defend the nation in spite of the outstanding performance in their foreign clubs. Baldwin Sama explains the reasons for this desertion.
They are considered glaring examples of those who've turned their back to the national football team: Youssoufa Mokoko, Joel Matip, Nicolas Nkulu, and Jean-Pierre Samer.
The environment around the Indomitable Lions, when these players come in, there is much intrigue, there is favoritism, and sometimes there is a lack of professionalism in handling these players. We know these are professionals and they have a way of doing things back there with their clubs.
Let's take, for example, their individual performances. Jean-Pierre Same, who plays for Swiss Super League club Young Boys, has played 22 matches this season, scoring 14 goals. Youssoufa Moukoko plays for Dortmund in Germany. This season, he has played 14 matches, scoring 3 goals. Joel Matip, who plays for Liverpool in England, has played 14 matches this season, scoring 2 goals and 2 reliable assists. Not forgetting Nicolas Nkulu, who plays for Torino in Italy, with 14 matches played this season, scoring 1 goal. If these individual performances are put together, they will be an added value to Cameroon's national football team.
The first thing will be a clean environment where people come in and do things professionally without any networking, without any intrigues. We come there for the game, we come there for the national flag.
The examples are many, with a clarion call being to put aside ego and the love for country first.
And that will be all for this edition of the 7:30 News, in which you heard that coronavirus infections are hiking in the country. Over 900 deaths have been recorded, with 68 in only 1 week. The Interministerial Committee to monitor the response strategy has scrutinized the availability of kits and is considering the construction of new specialized treatment centers. At 8:30 p.m., Adel Mbala will be your host for the news in the French language. Tomorrow, you'll be in the company of Benin Bumagana. Have a blissful weekend ahead and stay tuned to our programs on CRTV and on CRTV News. Thanks for watching. Good night.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.